Hey everybody, welcome back to Dad Does Videos. Today we are going to show you how to put together this Roadmaster 26-inch bike model R4046WMMDS, the Granite Peak version. We got this in the mail and I feel like there's always a bunch of questions about, hey, how much is this assembled? How much do I have to do? Is it hard? How are the directions? So we'll give you an inside look. And in case you had to know what tools are required beforehand, they do a really nice job up front here letting you know that these 5 tools are on the docket to be used even before we open the box. Okay, so I popped the top open and it looks like a lot of it is already assembled, no surprise. But we'll pull this out and give you a better look at what this looks like. Okay, so we got this out of the box and it, again, looks like a lot of things are already connected. What we're gonna do next is break apart these straps right here and take the foam off. And then eventually down here, it's hard to see, but you can see some directions. So those are attached as well to everything else. We'll pull those out when we remove the straps, and it looks like there's a rubber band right here too. Okay, so here's the beginning of the installation direction. As you can see here, we've already done the first one and we're in the midst of number 2 right here. So we're just gonna go ahead and keep doing that. As you can see, I've got a couple pieces and parts out here already, but I thought I'd check the directions just to be sure that I'm going about doing this the right way. So we're gonna take the rest of the foam off and the straps just to make sure everything looks good and we have all the parts that we need. Okay, so in the directions, it looks like we're gonna have to assemble the handlebar, the seat, the pedals, and then the front wheel. Let's see if I've got everything. There's the front wheel, the seat, the pedals, and then down here, this is my handlebar. Okay, so the first thing we need to figure out is you can see here in the directions, there are 2 types of stems that attach the handlebar. We have to figure out if we have a Quill stem, whatever the heck that is, or a threadless stem. And the threadless stem looks like this. Basically, your handlebars have a little loop at the end and it goes on the actual top of the bike. We don't have that. As you can see here, there's nothing here that our fixture would set on. And if you look at the actual handlebars that we have to take that little white cap off, but that'll fit right in here. So by definition, it looks like we have a Quill system. Who knew? Learned something new today. Okay, so as we move forward to put the handlebars on, the first thing we're gonna do, if you remember, we had this white piece attached to the bottom. That's how we figured out we had the Quill system, right? So I just took this off and we are going to then put our handlebars in the tube. A couple things here that the directions point out that you'll want to make sure of. When we put this on, they're kind of hard to see, but this, what they call the minimum insertion point, and let me give you a good look. They are right here. It's right here. So you want to push this in past this. You don't want to see these ridges at all after you put this in. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We also want to be sure that when we do this, all the brakes for your wires and everything like that don't get jangled up, because that's never a good thing. You want everything nice and smooth and not jumbled up. Okay, so I've got that in place. As you can see here, you don't see the ridges anywhere around my handlebars, so we're in good shape there. And the directions next ask us to use a 6mm Allen wrench. I'm trying to get that in focus. Oh, sorry about that. But we need to use a 6mm Allen wrench to tighten the handlebars. So the little trick here, and you can see I have my Allen wrench set out here, and if you don't have one of these, I suggest you get one. you always run into little household chores where you're gonna need all kinds of different sizes for these. And I think this cost me like $15 or something like that. But right at the top, it looks like there's no hole, but you just put your fingernail under there, and lo and behold, there's where your Allen wrench goes. So we're gonna get our Allen wrench and tighten this up. Just a little tip here as we're going along. I flattened this out and put this just right on the ground. And the reason why I did this, I thought I'd set the frame for the wheel that's eventually gonna fit right in there, just straight, and level up my my handlebar so it's right over the top of the wheel. And it looks like I have to do a little bit of correction there. But one thing I just noticed, and it's a little bit of a tip, they have the word rear put on here on the back of where the wheel goes. So this is a helpful hint. Make sure this part faces back towards the rear of the bike. Okay, so I did that with my Allen wrench on top and put the little tab back on. The directions also ask you to check the handlebar binder bolts, and that is right here, to make sure those are nice and tight. So I stuck my Allen wrench in there and moved it clockwise just to make sure, and that's nice and tight as well. There's a section in the directions next about attaching the brake cables, but since ours already came assembled, we don't have to do that. I would suggest just to make sure though, I'm gonna squeeze my front brakes, and as you can see, those are working perfectly fine, and I'll double check once we get the tire on. And then the back brakes, if I squeeze those look like they're in good shape too. Okay, so we're about ready to put our front wheel on, and the first step in this part is to make sure the treads line up. So this is my back wheel, it's already on, and as you can see, these things, the treads on here they come down and point that way. I lined this up to double check, and my front wheel is incorrect here because they seem to point the other way. Hopefully you can tell the difference. These kind of come down and go that way, whereas these are pointing the other way. So if I just turn these around, you can see they both line up. These treads look the same as these. So when we install this on the front, we just have to make sure it's going this way to line up so the treads are going the same way. The next step in this part is to remove this little plastic piece. This is just a placeholder. At first it kind of caught me. I'm like, what is that? But you're just going to want to pop that out because we have to put our wheel in there. Okay, so make sure you have a wrench or pliers for this next section, and I'm going to show you how to do this because I don't think the directions did a really nice job. So I'll just talk to you in plain language. So we're going to want to take this off and this next section off with this little hook, because this little hook is going to go right into the frame of your bike. So we want those two pieces off on both sides and set those apart for a second. So this is what these should look like on each side. That and that, right? Those other two pieces for each side are on the floor or wherever you're keeping them safe. And the next step is we are going to lift our frame of our bicycle up right here and then put these two slots down on top of right here and then on the other side, but make sure they're on this side of these bolts, on the outside of those bolts. Okay, so here's what these should look like. Here's the top view when you get these on, right on the outside of each of those bolts. And just a little tip here, this threw me for a little bit of a loop, but your tire should not be inflated. But when you first start to put this on, the tire actually, the brakes actually get in the way of the tire. Just squeeze the tire to make it more narrow and push down, and then the brakes will slide right past it and it'll fall into place. But that threw me for a loop. I'm like, wait a second, the brakes are kind of in the way here. So now what we're gonna want to do is put our pieces back on, and you're gonna wanna take this one first and position it so that the hook goes into the hole on that side, and then put the bolt in place. Okay, so these are what, this is what this should look like once you've gotten both of these on. Make sure you turn clockwise, right, as much as you can, and tighten these up with your wrench or your pliers. Again, you can see the little hook goes in here. We should be in pretty good shape. I tested my brakes. They seem to work pretty well. So we're gonna move on to the next step. So a little tip here, as I was double checking my brakes, I noticed that these were a little off. As you can see right here, when I press these, some of it goes on the silver part, the inner part of the tire, and some of it doesn't. What you can do, and then on this side, these were a little too far up. It was actually pressing against the inner tube. What you can do, you can adjust where these position. So you get a 5mm Allen wrench out and put it in here and loosen this, and you can see the spacing. So you can move this up and down depending upon where you want the brake to hit your tire. So I already did that. On this side, as you can see, it's right aligned with that right now. So I'm gonna stick my Allen wrench right in here, loosen this up, and move this whole brake system up a little bit so that this pad hits the full force on that inner part of the inner tube. And something else that popped up as I was checking out the brakes, I noticed that with the handlebars, typically what you do is when you're riding a bike, your brake should be out here, right? Not way underneath here. So these need to be moved up so that when you're riding, you can just grab them. So I already made the adjustment on this side. What you have to do is get an Allen wrench, and I think it's about 5.5 or 5mm, and put it in there, loosen that up, and that will give you the ability to adjust where this is. So you can see how different it is. This one's up a little further. Maybe out here, that's a better look. This one's up a little further, so I'm gonna do the same thing on this side and bring this up. So our tire is on, we're gonna adjust that, and then I believe what's next is putting the seat on. Okay, so here's something else that popped up along the way. I also noticed that my handlebars were just too far over top, I guess, or too far twisted in is the best way for me to tell you that. And the reason is the labeling right here and over here was almost underneath the handlebars, or the bottoms of this were up here. So if you're riding, the 6 would be almost up here. So what you need to do to adjust these, it's all about the Allen wrenches here, right? There are little holes. It's hard to see because they blend in on each handlebar, where you take a really small Allen wrench and again loosen it, and then this whole piece adjusts. So you can twist this how you'd like to see it. Okay, so we've got our bike seat on, and this is pretty easy to put on. So you'll just want to loosen this piece, turn it to the left, push this in, and then when you get it to a height that you want, you'll want to come over to this side, and you'll basically, this will be hanging out like this, and you just push like that to tighten it up, and your seat's in good shape. And then you can adjust it however you would like. Okay, pedal time. So you can see on this side, it gives you R for right, because we're on the right side of the bike. You want to match that up with the pedal. I don't know if you can see, but on here, let's see, there's an R right there. So we know that this goes in on this side. So you just want to put that in there and start tightening. And you want to do this on the left side too. Okay, so we've got our pedals in. Just a little tip here, on the left side, you actually go counterclockwise to screw it in. So just thought you'd like to know, if you're like me, you're thinking for a few seconds, why is this not working? So just twist the other way. Okay, so we've got it all set up. We're gonna take it for a little test drive, see what happens. I did put the air in it, and I know most people know how to do this, but just find on each tire the inlets. Take the tops off and use your air pump to pump the air in. All right, now we'll just take it for a spin, make sure everything works the right way.